Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Treya Tarot. This is the collective reading for Friday, December 6th through Sunday, December 8th, 2024. I am fresh off of watching a video about the astrology of the week ahead. The Venus, flips over. The Venus conjunct Pluto with Mars in retrograde. 4 cards came out, so let's see if we can get them all in a row. This just flipped over for me. Before I continue and do the actual reading, the ruler of globes is the King of Pentacles, 10 of Swords, the Hierophant, and then the 3 of Pentacles. The theme, as I mentioned, the astrology, the theme is very much about the interplay between, or the battle between, the I and the we. Astrologically speaking, the themes that might come up this week have a lot to do with what we see as ours versus what we see as collective, as well as in relationships, specifically the individual versus the we, the togetherness. What I find interesting about this particular transit, I just want to move this so I have some space, is that the potential for actual change and the realization of the freedom in the we is a heavy theme. There's something coming up about how the principle of beauty, Venus, how the principle of beauty and sensuality and love and intuition is mirroring something specific to the Mars principle, which is currently retrograde. So in more of a place to compromise and view something differently than usual. So there is this sort of back and forth, potentially tense setup for growth or conflict. From the reading here, from the 4 cards that popped out, that King of Pentacles, in this particular situation reads as my way or the highway, or this is what I am, or this is how I want things. But that essential influence here is the wound. It's the self-inflicted damage. The Hierophant is the higher contract, and the 3 of Globes is that 3 of Pentacles energy. So there's this sort of resignation or potential resignation to, I want to say divine intervention, or interception of a piece of wisdom that kind of resets this pattern here. So I'll start with that, but I'm still shuffling. All right. So I hope everybody's having a good week so far, and I hope this weekend turns out to be better than expected, as always. If anyone looked at the Schumann resonance this morning, then you were probably also astonished. 9 of Wands, self-protection. You're probably also astonished at the sheer amount of electromagnetic energy hitting this planet right now. I'm definitely feeling it. I feel like any residual patterning, belief systems, feelings, etc., from my traumatic situations are surfacing in some very interesting ways and in subtle ways where I'm not really having to process much of that, other than to just sit and feel through whatever's coming up. So there's some good stuff happening, I think, but some of it's bound to present some conflict. Okay. If you like these readings, please like, subscribe, comment, the usual. I'm going to cut the deck now. Okay, we're going with the left pile. Okay. Let's see what we got. The Queen of Pentacles. Trying to make sure these are at least somewhat yeah. It's interesting. My camera must be tilted slightly. Cards are a little off, but okay. Queen of Pentacles, 9 of Pentacles, 9 of Swords. Okay. I will tell you this, the feminine principle in this transit, in my opinion, is coming directly up against the difference between her anxiety and her resources. The thing about the Venus principle in this transit is that it's the awareness. On some level, Venus conjunct Pluto, Venus can see what's wrong. Venus can see what's being processed. The feminine principle here is aware. So what's interesting about that is that it's not that they have any more power than the Mars principle, even though Mars is retrograde. So there is themes of power and empowerment and disempowerment. But it seems to me that the Venus principle in this transit does not hold the power. They just see something. The power is evenly spread, although it's not seen that way for some reason because of that retrograde and Pluto aspect. What's interesting about the reading itself, though, is that this Queen of Pentacles is in direct contact with her resources, in direct contact with what is whole about her. And the anxiety seems to come as a second thought. The anxiety is a step away from her internal sense of truth. So what's good here about this is the setup for this sort of meeting the conflict, the tower, the fall apart, with a sense of resilience and a sense of intention for restoration, which I appreciate. The 10 of Pentacles here, that solid foundation, and then the sun. The thing here is the tower. The tower this time may only strip away that which is untrue. It may not strip away whole partnerships. I know that the tower traditionally has the couple falling off, down off the tower as it falls. But for me, if you notice this particular tower card, you see the stars that are within, that you can see through the fall, the structure that's falling apart here. There is a light behind this breaking down that is potentially turning into this here. This incredibly positive, warming, illuminating influence, because our foundations are stronger. Our emotional foundations, our physical foundations. This could look very much like a couplehood that is actually built on a decent amount of love and care and mutual receptivity, comes up against a belief system or a process that needs to come down so that the two of them can actually be together, actually move forward. There are definitely, this is all relational, so expect it. The astrology of the next week is all relational. Be prepared. Okay. 6 of Cups, the past as well as the soulmate. Okay. But in this particular deck, I read it as the past, and the childhood influence, the influence of what makes us feel innocent and whole. The 4 of Globes, withholding, and the Seeker of Wands, Page of Wands. So to me, this means that the potential exists for us to have to face past people that we may not necessarily want to share anything with. We may actually have to either face the issue or face the person specifically or people specifically, and not give them 4 of Pentacles, 4 of Globes, and not give them our resource, but allow them to pull it up from within themselves. So because this pulled up the feminine principle first with that Queen of Pentacles, I would say that if you are on the feminine side, gender is not related. If you're on the feminine side of the picture, meaning if you're processing the abandonment wound from the side of, I see what's wrong, why won't you let me help you fix it? You are to withhold that urge, or you have the option finally to withhold the urge of having to fix it. The people-pleasing days are done. So that's clear. That's clear with that 9 of Swords as well. The anxiety is internal, it's mental. So there's something here about owning your own, understanding your own feelings, maybe focusing and refocusing on what makes you feel most connected and alive so that you are not attempting to fix other people's lives. Okay. Waiting. Delightful waiting, the Hangman. And then the Six of Pentacles, unexpected help. And then the Two of Pentacles. There's your choice. The reason I think all of these cards are Pentacles cards is because there's something here having to do with this choice, even though it seems mental and emotional, being intimately related to how we set up the rest of our physical experience. Will we choose to be together, all of us, or are we going to choose to continue in individualism and fail and be depressed and lose ourselves? If we can stop believing the lie that togetherness erases our individuality, then maybe we can actually have this sort of experience where we learn who we are in context, where we learn who we are and bring all of ourselves up instead of just trying to elevate our own selves to the exclusion of everyone else around us. There's definite themes of individualism with this transit, and so you will potentially see collective experiences of the conflict between our cultural individualism and, it's all about me, and what we do and do not owe to other people, or what that even means to us. All right, so now I'm going to pull on the masculine principle, that Mars retrograde. The thing here is there is balance on both sides of this equation. Even the astrological equation has something to bring to the table in that there's an awareness for both sides to experience. We do live in a duality. So even though it may be illusory, the two sides thing, it is the experience we are having. So I encourage people to just admit where they fall in terms of how they feel. There's almost this potential to let go of the personal identification with the process and just engage in it from a perspective of this is where, this is the time of the world that I chose to participate in. This is the process I chose to be alive for in this body, in this moment. And maybe there's a reason for that on some level. I like to think that we wanted to be here for this, but that's my own personal belief. Okay, let's see what we have. Masculine principle. We'll go with the, right pile. Left and right. Right. Ten of Pentacles. Okay, so these are questions of security. For the masculine principle, it's the question of security and passion and freedom and drive, right? Nine of Globes. Again, so seriously, there are similarities. Clearly, there's something coming up here. See, Seven of Swords, manipulation, the Pillar. I like the Pillar because there's this sort of resolute quality here, divine knowledge. For me, whenever I see this card, the more I get to know this deck, I hear this sort of connection to the divine. But the Pillar, the word reminds me of the inner pillar that goes through the body, through the center of the body. So for me, this is about a channel. I know that the actual meaning of the card is not this, according to the book from the deck, but every time it comes up, I get the same feeling, which is bringing the divine through the self on some level, or through the body, to experience something bigger than the self. Withholding. Okay, so what we have here for the masculine principle, the Mars retrograde, is the awareness of the manipulation, of the self-manipulation, of the manipulation of others in an effort to avoid conflict, the questions about freedom, about what is security, what feels safe and whole, what brings the resources, what brings the sense of fullness and abundance, and then this withholding here, this Four of Pentacles. There's this quality that I think this transit may bring up about the Mars principle, which is this sort of secret keeping, this everything, I keep everything close to the vest kind of thing. This influence of what feels safe to me is being able to do whatever with no being able to have whatever I want, right? Whatever I need, without actually having to share or be responsible to the whole, right? And here is that divine intervention moment. Okay, so again, there's that individualistic experience there, because Mars, Mars is traditionally the masculine principle, the active principle, right? So there's this experience here of, what does masculinity mean culturally? What does it mean individually? How do we process the need to keep our individuality? This came up in the astrology video I was watching earlier. It's also coming up in the reading. How do we keep our sense of self and passion and freedom alive while also not manipulating other people in an effort to get what we want? Unexpected help. Again, you see, this is connected. I shuffled pretty well. I'm a little funny. Okay, so here's your choice point. The interesting thing here is it seems to be that Venus is in the role of observer and expressor, whereas Mars is in the role of reviewer and choice maker. So it seems that the active principle makes the active choice, whereas the passive principle, Venus, is actually just pointing out something, highlighting something, putting a flashlight on something. Whereas Mars is here to say, okay, do I need to avoid the conflict here, or do I need to make the choice? Obviously, it's the lovers, so it's potentially the choice of the partnership. That's what's coming up to question. But we are all in that waiting space. We're all in that space of, who are we? I need to know who I am before I make this choice. What's interesting about Mars here, or as I'm reading it, Venus and Mars, is that the choice seems to be something that is helped. It's almost like there's confusion, and then something comes down into the individual space. It could be a meditative thing. It could be a person in their lives. If this is an individual, if you're resonating with this as an individual, collectively, it could be an outside party coming in to say, nope, this is not what you think it is. As a friend says, I do not think it means what you think it means. There's this experience here where we're kind of working back and forth to get clear on something that affects all of us, but that the Venus principle has been screaming for a while, and the Mars principle has been resisting for a while. I feel like you might see some resistance in the Venus principle throughout this transit, as well as some release and let go into the collective from the Mars principle. And the reason I'm using those terms is because I don't like to use, it's easy to reference using masculine and feminine, but this is going to float no matter what body you're in, or, what you identify as or with, because I have a feeling that this exchange is going to happen internally for each of us as well, between our sense of, who are we individually versus who are we in the collective? What is our role? What do we contribute? Does it matter to us? Do we feel invested? All of those things are going to come up, or could potentially come up. Obviously it's tarot and astrology, so it doesn't have to. You can opt out as well, Nine of Wands, that self-protection again. Okay, so that popped out earlier. This is the question of where your boundaries are, and whether or not you're defending yourself, or whether or not you're resigning to what you want. I mean, the 10 of Cups is the wholeness of what we want. It's fulfillment, okay? Ultimate fulfillment. The battle is between, do I reserve myself or do I share? Do I stay isolated and individualistic, or do I let go into the relationship, collective, group, etc.? And then the Moon. This is going to be an intuitive thing. We're going to have to navigate this through the murky water, so to speak. This is bound to feel like a very intense week. Not to say that last week wasn't equally as intense, but the themes here are so heavy, and we've been working on them for so long. And I feel like it's just probably really important that we all take care of ourselves in the best way we can, and take care of each other in the best way we can. If we're able to show up, maybe question any belief system that says, I don't need you, or any idea that that we're alone in the world, because we're clearly not. I mean, we're all one thing, essentially, but we're living in separate bodies and separate minds, so we have to see other. We have to see us and other differently, and then we have to know where the integration points are. That's what this reading says. So I hope you have a good weekend, and I hope this moves you into profoundly blissful territory. This is probably the last, biggest, most uncomfortable push that we will experience on the personal level that I can see coming. But I could imagine that, especially with the astrological alignments for next year, that this difficulty is going to move into the collective, and we're going to have to deal with it together. So we better learn this lesson now, I think. That's my opinion. Let's learn this lesson now so that we can actually support each other when the time comes, because we're going to need each other. All right. Have a good weekend. I'll see you soon.